Hello there and welcome to another episode on the Digital Edge with XMA. I'm really pleased and proud to be joined by Chris McBride from Glasgow University.
Thank you.
And we've just discovered in an earlier chat, we're at the same school, several years apart because he's a younger guy than me, but turns out we knew a lot of the same teachers, which is hilarious. It's such a small world, isn't it?
Right.
And we're here to learn about the MyMac programme at the Glasgow University. Now, Glasgow University is one of my favourite places in the world. That city is one of my favourite places in the world. And I used to say, Chris, that, when I used to walk around Glasgow University, you felt cleverer, just by walking around the place. So I could go here, So the MyMac programme is a really, really interesting programme developed at the university. It's revealed lots of things. It's moved lots of things forward. And we're going to hear about that, hopefully, through the kind of questions and conversation we have here today. So, Chris, to kick us off, can you tell us a little bit about Glasgow Uni, its history, its size of the thing, and how technology plays such an important part of what makes that place successful?
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. So the university has been around for hundreds of years. I think it was formed or established in 1451, originally in the centre of Glasgow, but now it's out in the west end of the city. It's 35,000 students attend from over 140 countries. So it's quite a huge university. It's a Russell Group member, so quite prestigious, and they're really research orientated. Got a lot of research programs in science and arts, humanities, and things like that. So they're world renowned in the top 100 universities in the world.
It's amazing. I wasn't there in 1440, I might add.
That was the grey hair, so the technology plays a massive part in it, given all the complex research we've got. So we need to keep on top of the services we offer to our staff and our professional services staff as well, our academics and researchers. We need to provide the best facilities we can to enable them, to allow them to conduct their groundbreaking and world-changing research. So it's something we're very passionate about.
And it is world-renowned, isn't it? It's one of the oldest universities in the world.
Yep.
World-renowned for a very good reason, for
Absolutely.
some of the things you mentioned there. But when you've got that kind of size and scale, you're definitely going to hit some of the scaling challenges that IT brings, because you're trying to support not just people in the Glasgow, it's that you're a global distributed institution at Glasgow University, aren't you? So what's been some of the IT challenges they've been facing in the last few years especially?
So the story really kind of starts before, obviously COVID changed everything, changed the landscape of that. Everyone was coming in every single day into their office to conduct the research. We've had to adapt to be a lot more hybrid and remote working as well. And for a lot of our researchers who go abroad in different remote areas around the world, we've had to adapt new ways of working and new ways to support our users. So it's been quite a challenge to come up with a method in which to manage these devices. But that's where MyMac comes in. And that project came out of enabling new ways of working, which was formed to look at how we provisioned our end user devices and improve the services we offered to our staff.
So that's got to happen centrally, isn't it? You've got to try and have a way of managing all of those devices when there's so many more out there that are remote, because that gives you some challenges around like security and things like research grants as well, don't you? Because that's unmanaged. Did you have a lot of unmanaged Macs?
Yeah, with thousands of unmanaged Macs, because the university didn't have a centralised Apple support mechanism. So there was no management of Apple devices whatsoever until MyMac came along. Now, times are changing, the security threats are increasing all the time, and a lot of the funding that the universities apply for and grants that they apply for, there's now a cyber element involved in accessing that money. So you have to tick a box to say you're either Cybersecurity Essentials certified or Plus certified to be able to conduct sensitive research on certain types of devices that are under management and heavy security protocols on them.
So you're driven a lot by some of those cybersecurity challenges and the very specifics that have changed around giving people a grant for research. That's
Yeah.
and Cyber Essentials is such a critical, important part of what every institution does. So
Mhm.
that's driving a lot of that work, isn't it?
Yeah, that was probably the main change and main driving force behind Project EOS, which my Mac sits under, and that
Uh-huh.
was the ways we could improve all of our services that we provide to the users. Uh, that was that was a real game changer, improving security. When you've got a fleet of completely unmanaged Macs, you can't tell what's happening on these devices. You can't tell if they're infected or they're connecting into your systems, but you've got no way to report on them, their patch statuses. You don't even know where they are, who's got them. You've no idea. So changing that to a managed fleet through my Mac, you've then got eyes on these devices. You can report on them. You're fulfilling your legal obligations on ensuring that the data is secure. So it's a game changer.
Absolutely. And of course, on the flip side of the coin, and I've got friends in this kind of area as well, right? So some of them, I've got friends that are researchers, and they worry about potentially losing some kind of autonomy. Don't take it off me. Don't lock it down to the point I can't use the thing because
Yeah,
I've got this Mac for a reason. It's been bought by somebody else without necessarily consulting you.
right.
So how did you address those concerns? Because I guess they were worried about it, weren't they?
Yeah, so it's probably communication is a key when doing this. You have
Mhm.
to be open and honest, and even after you have those conversations, some people still might not agree with you, but you have to be take their concerns on board and try and mitigate any of those concerns and be adaptable. And that's one of the things that we try and do. If a user comes to us with a particular issue that they think they can't have a managed device, we'll show them a way that they can have a managed device and still be able to complete their work.
Yeah.
It's about engagement and communication, just
Mhm.
talking. Uh, and everyone that wants to engage and talk, we always find a way around any potential issue they have. We've
Yeah.
not had one single user we've opted out because we can't have their device managed, and we've got world leading researchers in all fields of academia and people working in remote areas in South America and Africa, and we've had no opt outs whatsoever because we can
Mhm.
by talking to our users, we can accommodate them and accommodate their needs while keeping them secure.
That transparency is really important because you were really strong on the communication piece,
Mm.
um, to the point where I guess people were saying things like, oh, I need this, I'm with this. If I want to do world class research and I want the world's best device, I want the world's best security and the world's best oversight of this device. Because if I
Mm.
lose it on a boat in South America, what are we going to do? Because that research it does have a value, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, so it could be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds invested in that kind of research, millions even. And
Mhm.
if it's lost on a device that's not secure, then there's really no excuse for that. Not in these times.
No,
So
that's a huge risk for uni, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. And it's reputational damage as well to any organisation that's caught on that. So you have to do everything you can to make sure these devices are secure. And
And
it, there's also the users might have some personal data on the device as well, and you want to make
Mhm.
sure that none of that's lost.
Absolutely, yeah. Could be photos and everything, couldn't it?
Exactly.
We were talking about our kids earlier. If you photos that you don't want in the hands of other people.
Yeah.
I think just that good communication about the why of
Hmm.
that, it really worked. There'll always be
Yeah.
challenges with some people, but I think it really worked well because you were so transparent about things. And
Yeah.
when you came down to deciding about a mobile device management solution, there's a number out there.
Hmm.
What were the key factors in choosing Jam for that, and how did it help achieve those goals for my Mac?
Well, with, with the size of the organisation we are and how spread out we are, we knew we would need a product that we could highly customise because we wanted to manage it ourselves. So we had a talk with Apple and we settled on Jamf due to the mature nature of their product. They've been about for a long time and they know what they're doing. We had an initial discussion with them, and some of the guys who spoke to, like Rob Potvin and Misha, are experts in all things Apple and MDM. So sitting down with the guys and explaining what we wanted out of the project and what they could bring to the project to help us achieve. It just seemed like an absolutely natural fit. And we done a thing called the Premium Pilot. So that was working with Jav. We built the product to our exact specifications and what we wanted through like a 6 months period of time. And then at the end of that, we went into full production, where we started onboarding live devices that were recently purchased. And then from there, we then backfilled devices that were existing devices.
And just brought them back into the fold again.
Yeah. It's still an ongoing process with the existing devices. Recently had to get all the previous purchases put into ASM. So I think we're over 8,800 at the minute. But I think a few thousand of those will be obsolete by now. But we're expecting a big uptake when the next major OS is released. Yeah. And a lot of the devices, when they're upgraded, will auto-enroll.
That'd be brilliant. That auto-enrollment program is fantastic. And of course, Jamf, one of the things we get confidence with Jamf is just that scalability. You know it's going to scale.
Exactly. So it's great. We've been able to like compartmentalize a lot for the different areas in the university. So they've got their own local IT, and we can compartmentalize it further down using sites, and then the users or the IT in those areas have full access to manage those areas. So we're not taking anything away from our IT colleagues. We're helping them to support their users, like giving them the access. And that's part of the beauty of having Jamf for scalability and adaptability and the amount of customizations we can do for a lot of people.
But has that led more people to wanting to move to Mac as an option?
Yeah, well, certainly a lot of departments wouldn't allow Macs to be purchased because there was no centralised Apple support. So now there is, it's opened up choice. Some departments ordered Macs anyway, but we certainly have seen a huge uptake in Apple devices being purchased. Yeah.
Yeah, because the reputation of that device is it's pretty stellar.
Absolutely. I mean,
device.
The quality.
What kind of platforms are you using on it? Is it Office 365?
Yeah.
People have used. Because I think some people have got that fear, oh no, if they move me to a Mac, I'm going to have to learn how to use all these keynotes and stuff.
Yeah.
It's never been about that, is it?
No, it's thankfully it's all uniform. We're using 365, so everybody's quite comfortable on using that platform and the interoperability between the two, Windows and Mac.
Yeah, that compatibility piece is just, it just gets rid of a lot of worries that some people have, and, you were talking about chatting to Apple about that. What kind of, we think Apple's an amazing partner. What role did Apple play in supporting the implementation and the success of MyMac?
Well, they were very keen, obviously, for us to develop a managed system. They realised that we were a big customer, the amount of devices we purchase. They also believed we could do it better. And that was part of the whole conversation around what way should we go, and Jamf really came to the forefront because of their size and some of the companies and universities they're involved with. All you have to do is look at a list of their clients, and it's pretty impressive. And we wanted to try and build the best possible instance we could, and we realised we were going to need the best guys to help us build it up from scratch, and then we would then take it forward.
Yeah, go to the source.
Exactly, that's
we
it.
don't know. We're absolutely snookered.
Exactly.
No, that's great.
Yeah, and that really goes back to the point where, because we were introducing this into an unmanaged fleet, we'd one chance to get this right. We couldn't do this and get it wrong. We've lost all credibility with all our users. So that whole communication piece, this is what we're going to do. But if we'd implemented some sort of product that we hadn't built it right, then we wouldn't have got it back. So we had to do this right first time, and that's why we didn't want to take any chances, and we went with the market leader.
And that's why the partnerships, so important. I'm pleased and proud to say XMA have part that partnership, but the relationships you build so that you can cross the T's and dot the I's to make sure, as you say, once it's released, this has got to work for us. And I've spoken to a few people at Apple about the MyMac program, the preparation for today, and previously in the past when I was down in London at Battersea, and they were saying, they learn a lot they get a lot of this partnership because they learn a lot about how an institution works, because they're not an institution the size of Glasgow, in terms of the day-to-day business. So they've learned loads throughout this project, and I know they're very thankful for that. Were there any unexpected kind of challenges or any learning that you got from that you encountered during the rollout of it?
Yeah, I mean, technical challenges. The product is really slick. I mean, there's no issue there. I think one of the challenges we had was we're in the middle of an infrastructure upgrade. So in some areas of the university's network isn't as quick as you would hope. So that led to some enrolment problems where networks dropping and things like that. But using Jamf, you can remediate any issues after the fact, which is pretty handy. Probably one more thing was the level of detail we probably had to go into when explaining things to a lot of members of staff. One of the major concerns was around privacy. And we had to go a long way to ensure that everybody knew that we can't see what's on your device. Yes, your device reports in, but it reports in patch statuses and virus definition statuses, and if there's any potential threat in your device, we don't see any of your files. We can't see any of your files. Your files are all backed up using OneDrive, don't fold or move, so that's all secure. We have no way to get onto your device unless you allow us, essentially. And we wouldn't seek to do that anyway. So that was probably a surprise with the feeling about it. And we had to do a lot around that.
They sometimes go through unexpected questions. Where did that come from? Of course, the fundamental part of what Apple are about is about that security and privacy. So you take exactly the same stance. You wouldn't go against that when that's why you chose
not a chance.
The first platform.
We're there to enable people. We're not there to stop them doing anything. We're not there to spy on anyone. There's no interest in that. We just want to make sure they can do their work securely.
That's what I got from the conversation I saw down in London with you guys was about it's about service. We're here to service your success, and by default that becomes your success, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If somebody goes away and is able to do their work securely, we're more than happy with it.
Absolutely.
That's the end game for us.
Great. When we look at, when you get something that size, and you were also talking just there about how there's other things going on apart from this project. You get infrastructure, there's the normal day-to-day business of that team. Did MyMac have a positive or negative influence on your resource allocation, your efficiency in day-to-day?
Well, I think so. I was already working at university when this stood up, and then I was put into the role of leading the service, and it was really from a standing start. And what we've noticed is that we've got a very low number of calls coming in when you compare it to, for example, Windows devices. Now, the university still has more Windows devices, but we are seeing a shift and a lot more Macs being purchased. But there's two of us in the MyMac team, and we have a lot of Jamf trained technicians and other IT specialists around the university. But by and large, there's only there is officially only two members of the MyMac team to manage it from the top level, the global level.
Wow. Given the number of devices as well, do you know?
Yep.
That's quite a surprise, really. And I think maybe that's because of that due diligence you took in the planning of it. If you do all that preparation work first, then you're in a better chance of success, and then less resource being needed to manage the thing because it was so well designed in the first place.
Exactly, that's it. Yep. And all the features that are coming out recently from Apple and Jamf, we've got time to develop them and implement them as well on the fleet. So it's really impressive. Some of the stuff that Apple have released regarding enterprise features, public caption devices that upgrade, and there's no way to get around it. That's really quite impressive and exactly what we were looking for.
Yeah, that data analytics stuff, and the kind of Jamf reporting you can get about things like app usage.
Yeah.
Then you can make informed decisions, right?
Absolutely. It's just having all the information at your fingertips, and then you can make strategic decisions and what's the best way to support everyone.
Uh-huh. And then there's no unknowns for your staff, because you can say, you can go to them and say, by the way, this device is becoming, performance wise, and they think that makes it an even better service because you're telling them before they've even known the status of it.
Yeah. So last year I put out a message on everyone's desktop for devices that were over 6 years old, and this is, you might want to think about trying to get a replacement. And that went down quite well, as you might imagine. The users were, oh really? I can go and get a new device. Oh really? That's great.
That's all part of that communication, that's been looked after. It reminds me of when people go on a train, right? People used to get dead stressed going for a train because they never knew if it was going to arrive in time. And you'd look up and down the track, where's my train, where's my train? And then all they did was put on those little signs that said, train in 1 minute, train in 2 minutes. And that dropped everybody's shoulders because they're thinking, well, at least I know.
Right.
So that communication is really important. So there will be other institutions across Scotland. We do have some of the oldest universities in the world. And of the similar kind of size and scale to Glasgow. What advice would you give to other institutions that are maybe considering a similar kind of programme? What advice would you give them?
Well, we've already touched on communication, but also what's really important is the buy-in from the very top of the university. So when my Mac was brought forward, the university co-op mandated it.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got buy-in from the very top, and if anyone isn't too keen on getting a managed device, kind of point out, well, it's been mandated from the university co-op, so it's an organisational device. We have to follow policy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but management buy-in is essential to get a successful project, and that communication as well, and thoroughly plan out what you want to achieve. What do you need your platform to do? But by and large, you're going to have, one size won't fit all, so you have to have the ability to scale it, to change it and adapt your platform and what you're doing.
But it's not a lift and shift, is it? It's really, you can't skip the learning that you've all gone through.
Yeah, no, you can't.
And you built an awful lot more capacity within the team. You now know more. Your depth of knowledge is much richer than it would have been if you hadn't gone through the programme.
I had to go through that to gain the kind of knowledge. Working with the guys for Jav, I mean, the guys are absolutely fantastic, and the amount of knowledge you gain just by sitting in the room listening to them and working on them, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So taking that on board and then doing what we done was we bought Jav training passes to train up an internal team, and you get an awful lot of knowledge through that as well. It's something I really recommend people doing, is getting a Jav training pass for their IT team.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, because that, being able to develop and grow and learn and get accreditations, you want people to grow. That's part of your job as a leader, is to help other people grow,
Excellent.
in their role. What I would say, I guess, to institutions is that make sure you get the right partnerships. Jav, Apple, your institution, XMA if we're lucky. Those partnerships are so important. You all understand the same ambition that you've got, because we are all in service of, building the best institution we possibly can.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like staff have responded to that choice really well, that sits in the state. Do you think that's going to grow and continue?
Yes, well, as we were saying, the numbers are increasing all the time, and given the performance of Apple's devices, I mean, batteries last forever, almost. And the new M devices that come out, the M4s, they're just fantastic.
They're lovely, aren't they?
And the price point is really attractive as well.
Yes.
So I can definitely see a lot more of those devices shifting. But by and large, it's equivalent PC laptops.
Yeah, because it starts becoming a culture, doesn't it? In the place, and then you know exactly that reliability you're getting. So what are the kind of future plans for my Mac program? Is there any new features? Or you were mentioning something about enterprise there on the horizon?
Yeah, so we want to onboard the other unmanaged devices we have out there. Now, we just missed the cut-off for Sequoia when it get released. Okay. But when a new one comes out, we'll capture a lot of the devices then and get them enrolled and secured. one things we noticed when we were onboarding existing devices was they weren't encrypted, a lot of them.
Right.
So so that's a big security hole we wanted to fill. We're also got a what Meta have described as the best VR facilities in the world in the university.
Oh, wow.
And we have got a number of Apple Vision Pros that we now have under management in Jam.
Wow.
So,
Well, can you manage them as well?
Yeah, they do.
Oh, wow.
So we've got them implemented, enrolled, and I'm really excited to see how we can help facilitate the researchers going on using those.
Because there's so many different applications in VR and AR, isn't there? In terms of learning and also in research too.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, hopefully a fundamental part of our future. Now, of course, you're dealing with lots of technology, and there'll be other things like AI kicking about, making people a bit nervous. So, in terms of the future, do you see the role of technology evolving in higher education? Do you think it's what's going to be changing and be different?
Well, AI is becoming a huge part of IT and the way people interact with it. And you're right, a lot of people are a bit standoffish. Other people are getting really involved in it. The nature of IT is always changing, and the university has to adapt with that to provide the best we can for our staff and students and that user experience. Some of the research projects we have in the university are like world leading, they're cutting edge stuff. So our IT has to match the aspirations of the academics and the researchers. And our services are being consumed more and more, device counts are going up as our services get better and better. So it's a really exciting time at university to see what we're going to be producing in the future and helping people achieve.
Yeah, and a few researcher pals of mine have been talking about that M series devices, are really helping them meet the moment, in terms of performance. And I think when you've got your ambitions that are aligned parallel to the developing chipset and what the feature set of the device is going to be really, they're really closely aligned, which is absolutely perfect. I mean, I'm kind of jealous of the MyMac program, because I'm thinking back to my own education at university and choices you would have had and some of my colleagues who are lecturers and stuff, what they've got now. It's amazing. But, it's been such a fascinating programme for us to watch from XMA's side, and just to see the thought and the care and attention that's been put into it. And really hope we'll continue to support whatever your ambitions are and whatever way we can, and hope to develop that relationship over the next few years. And it'll be interesting once that new operating system comes in and we begin to get everything captured. It'll be really interesting to come back and chat to you, Chris, about where are you now? To think further on down the line, once you've gone through that full cycle, there'll be even more learning that's been had, and we can tell a richer story about how to get it right, which is that's your ambition, just get it right.
Absolutely. I mean, every single new user that comes on will have a different set of criteria that they need for their research or their teaching or their work. And it has a learning experience every time somebody comes with a new wee cravat to see what we need to do to help them out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it, in education? Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Chris. I know we've got lots of conversations to happen further on down the line. Thank you so much for joining us in the podcast. For everybody that's joined us today, I hope you'll follow us in that journey in the MyMac program and join us again in another podcast from XMA. Thanks very much for your time, everybody. Goodbye.